So we've got Amar Ghosh first, who's the co-founder of ZenMaze. You may be familiar with both of these already, but ZenMaze at like 2 billion plus ARR, last I checked, something like that. Elston is the founder of TinyHost, which is at 1 mil ARR. So they both have tons of experience just in growth marketing, products, and everything else. And I think they're the perfect candidates to do some indie shark tanking and roasting, basically. So thanks to the three members that have signed up. We'll see how many people we can get through. I kind of assumed that like it might be two or three in a session like this. We'll see how it goes. But we'll hand it over first to Daniel Easterman, who's with me in the space, who you'll see shortly. And he's going to explain the scenario, and we'll leave it up to Amar and Elston to kind of, dig into it, asking more questions. Daniel might share his screen and stuff like that, and we'll get into it. Cool.
Okay, so yeah, this is PythonStarter. This is the main language landing page. Basically, PythonStarter is it's a starter kit for Python developers or any kind of developer who wants to do any kind of like vibe coding. It's kind of made up of like 3 or 4 core building blocks, if you like. So the database is a Postgres database. It's kind of all ready to go, all set up. Then you have authentication and login and payments with Stripe and UI and styling. And then there's a few extra features as well, where you have Amazon SW3 set up, ready to go, and kind of deployment with Render, which is a platform as a service. Then I also have a section here in my landing page how it can like integrate with different AI tools, and that's kind of outlined in the documentation as well. So yeah, you go further down the landing page, pretty standard. And then we have the pricing section, put $100 off for the first 100 customers, and frequently asked questions. So then if you have it all set up, you can see we have like the admin page here, so you can access your users in your database, your different products, and again, this is kind of like all outlined in this documentation. And I just was kind of brainstorming this today, and I realized that I could actually have a button here in the documentation where it would just create some markdown and just say copy to my AI. And then you could kind of get all these steps to be done. This is kind of pre-Claude days. So, there's all these commands here to run step by step, takes you through it. And then, so I've just launched about 2 weeks ago, so second week of March. Here's my dashboard. Unfortunately, this revenue number is not correct. This was me making the purchase because I got like a kind of slightly scammy email from somebody saying that the purchase hadn't worked. So even though I ran it in like a test mode, I wanted to like do a real purchase just to make sure it was all working correctly. So just imagine this revenue figure says 0, but the rest of this is correct. So yeah, in 2 weeks, 168 visitors, and then you see the breakdown from different referrers in different countries. So yeah, I'm going to stop there, and yeah, if you have any more questions, if you have questions, and then happy to take on the roasting.
Cool. How many sales have you made then?
So 0 sales so far.
0 sales. Okay. Cool. Emma, do you have any comments yet?
What inspired you to build or offer this, and what inspired you to kind of do it now?
I guess I wanted to find like where my edge was, or like my kind of comparative advantage, because I wrote quite a few articles around this Python framework Flask before. So I was doing quite a lot of writing on Medium. I've done some freelance work for a company called AppSignal, which does performance and error marketing. So I realized I was doing the same steps when you build any kind of like SaaS product or project, and I kind of wanted it all pre-bundled in a project ready to go. So now instead of kind of iterate faster and build more products on top of that, kind of see what sticks. So yeah, that was my main motivation for this.
And how have you been marketing it?
Yeah, so I would say like that was my main one of my kind of errors was that I was focusing on the product building side for a long time. I didn't like create a lot of marketing momentum before the launch 2 weeks ago. So I've only now really started to focus on marketing, which is using Product Hunt as kind of the launching pad and using a lot of the Reddit groups that I used to post my Medium articles to. So Reddit is like would be the main channel. I'm gonna like continue with Medium and just my personal Twitter, but that's not really that focused on this tech audience. I've used a little bit of that. I have 10,000 followers on there, but they're more on the politics side of things rather than the tech side of things. And just created actually a content site as well called coffeebreakpython.com. So that was an existing domain that I thought would have some domain authority. And so I'm looking to do like some SEO optimized articles on that content site and kind of include YouTube videos inside there as well. And then link that off to the PythonStarter product site.
Cool. My honest kind of reaction to this, I think there's a market for it. Like, are you aware of Codefast by Mark
Yeah.
Liu?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably the most breakout success, but can be considered kind of scammy to some people. But he's kind of done really well, but he's a really good marketer. And I mean, looking through the sites, I think it's good, but I think it's probably like a 6 out of 10 in my opinion. I think where you are basically just selling a download link, your site for me needs to just be like wow in that kind of sense. And I think um there's probably elements of the design could probably look more interesting. But from a copy perspective, the main thing you really want to hammer home is, I think, like the amount of time you're going to save, right? Because that's basically what you're selling, the time saved.
Right.
Um, and I think like with copies like this or landing pages, it's about just drilling that one theme through every single section. It's like launch tomorrow, yes, and it's like this is how many hours you could save, and this is like this is you without building from scratch. This is you with Python Starter, and just every section is drilling that home. Um, and then the pricing for me, like when I focus on building like a pricing card, a checkout card, like for me that's probably one of the most that's to be most visually exciting things to look at because that's the place you click buy, right? And so we've always put a lot of attention in making that look as good as possible. Whereas this looks like it's a card which should be situated in three other cards. It's like one out of three cards. But effectively, if you only have one starter kit and you're planning on having one starter kit, make this look like a golden ticket or something like this. Like put in, I mean, you see people put, basically testimonials here, time saved, the discount, basically whatever you got, but make it look bit bigger in life than it currently is. I think that could really just help get there. I think testimonials is probably the biggest thing, right? And it's tough. It's a zero when you begin without any users. But perhaps you can get it from friends or other people and just get as many as you can. I see you have like one at the top, which is
Yeah,
good.
the one main one. Yeah.
Yeah, but see if you get three or four. It'd be nice to see examples of what has been built with it. That would be cool. Like, or what you could build with it, right? So, like the example section, like, I can build this, this, and this. So it kind of adds to that, and there's demos of like products I could see. So like just making it bigger than it seems. I think the more you kind of put up front here, the better. And I think that would help. On the distribution front, I think Reddit is good. There's probably a lot of places you can post and make threads and stuff. Really, I think how I think about content these days is about just being that subject matter expert in that space. So YouTube is super powerful. I think people really skip on that. I think like if you could just alone, make 10, 20 videos of just like deep, coding, coding videos teaching people how to code. It's not teaching me how to code, but teaching people how to use this product. Or look,
Yeah.
this is
Exactly.
what I made in 1 hour with this, right? I made X with this, and just hammering that content out. But focusing it around Python Starter, I think is super powerful. The same thing could go with blog posts, same thing with Reddit. But I think YouTube is probably one of the best because there's a lot of coders on there. You can make shorts from it. It builds brand, credibility and trust because I can see you are the founder and you've built this. So that would be my go-to distribution to try to get it out. Um, yeah, and then try to get on Reddit and that kind of stuff. How much competition is there in like the Python boilerplate stuff? Is there a lot of stuff?
Yeah, there are quite a few things, but mainly I would say mainly in Django, which is kind of like a more
Okay.
batteries included framework, whereas Flask is kind of more lightweight. It's like you
Yeah.
can't start everything from scratch. So I haven't seen too many like Flask boilerplates, especially like at this price point. But like you see Django ones roughly around this price point where they typically would include like the Stripe payment integration. That's the main differentiator where would go from like $50 for the code base to like 150.
Yeah. My other question is, if I just told Claude Code to build me the foundations of stuff, like how far would I get compared to what you offered?
Yeah, I mean to be honest, that's something I haven't actually like tested out myself. But one of the main differentiators here, I would say, is that like a lot of the vibe coding tools, they go with kind of a JavaScript based ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so there are obviously advantages with that, and that's like very popular. But there are kind of like major security issues because the front and the back end is not so clearly defined, especially for somebody who's just starting out. So a lot of the kind of you can kind of leak a lot of like secrets on the front end if you don't really understand what you're doing. So I think maybe might go for more like security angle with this in some of
Yeah.
this marketing thing to show like, okay, this is like a Python backend only site. So it doesn't have to be overcomplicated with combining JavaScript on the back end and having kind of something like React.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that that's like a like you're getting somewhere towards like the end of that with like the it's possible that security is a good way to like go about like differentiating yourself here a little bit. Um, Elston, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tiny right now is kind of blowing up a little bit because essentially all of the LLMs are recommending you guys, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's one of the things that I would be potentially considering here of like I don't have the option to do this. Like I've got, a vertical niche software that works with like with maid service owners who, they've never heard of Claude Code, right? They don't know what an API is, right? Like, it's a completely different thing. But Elston is growing quite nicely off of these like recommendations. And so to me, I'm wondering, is there a play here for you where you essentially like set up or do whatever you have to do to rank so that it's actually the LLMs that are recommending you as, oh, like this person wants to build with Python specifically, or maybe it's this person wants to vibe code a particularly secure app and doesn't want to use a JavaScript front end. Can you be the recommended like go-to for that? To me, like that's something where like everything else that we've talked about, it feels like you're maybe not necessarily fighting for scraps, but like, it's a changing world and a lot of people aren't going to need these things as much when they can use Claude Code to get these things going. And so to me, it's can you be what Claude Code recommends, for this? And I mean, a lot easier said than done. Just to be clear, like it's easy to say that and be like, oh, brilliant idea, but like good luck executing that, right? But it's worth considering.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons Tiny has been successful in that because we've been doing SEO for like 5 years prior to that, right? So there's a lot of deep SEO equity we have in that. Doesn't mean you can't do that, but it's something to if you're serious about this for like the next 12 months, I'd say like it's something to get started now and just keep hammering it home because eventually you'll get through. But like whatever you just explained now, why you're better than Claude Code is content, right? There should be a YouTube video on like why you shouldn't build this with Claude Code and why you should use us. Literally just explain exactly what's going on there. And
Yeah.
then the second thing is how to get your good SEO and into these LMs is literally being the expert on everything around Flask, right? People are asking, like, how do I set up this in Flask? How do I do that with Flask? How do all the problems, the common issues, the optimizations? You just need to be writing about Flask, Flask, Flask all over your blog. Hopefully, LMs quote you. They realize you are about Flask, and when people come and see you, it's like, oh, okay, Python starter is here. Maybe I should just use these guys. Yeah, when they're doing that, because it saves them the job. And then that's an assumption though that it's that someone looking for something will go and just use a boilerplate. I guess the main question for you is trying to understand where in their life cycle, user life cycle, would they find you, right? Is it at a point where they are already creating something and want to create a better one, but be better architecture for it? Is it at a point where they've got an idea and they want to build in Python? And then it's like, okay, how do you get into them as soon as they have that idea, right? Maybe it's partnering with Starter Store, that kind of stuff. And then understanding your user base is probably the most important thing, right? Like, who are these Python devs? Why do they choose Python over you? I'm guessing they're more tech savvy than Code Fast, because Code Fast is just, for anyone who wants to kind of, quote something really quickly. But yours is a particular type of developer, right? It could be someone, who's very pro Python, but also understands efficiency, performance, and wants, to write a different style of code. So it's understanding that, but also being everywhere in that kind of space through Flask. I think being that Flask promoter, I think is your channel, right? Like if you fast forward 12 months and you are the influencer in the Flask space, whether it's YouTube, on X, newsletter, whatever, I guarantee you'll get a very steady stream of sales. And then so just work back from that, right? What do you need to be to become a Flask influencer? And you have a business that's working, I think.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I just want to like clarify one thing that you said. I think rather than being replace Claude, I think that's kind of ambitious, but being more of a complement to Claude. And
Yeah.
as Amar said, like trying to be like the tool which is recommended by when somebody is in that vibe coding environment. But yeah, I think it's a long journey.
And yeah, I'd also like to just quickly like on this is I don't know how well this actually works like in terms of like the page copy, but it's something that I'm definitely trying to like train my team up with like ZenMade of like the speed savings that you're offering, they're almost taken for granted in an age of AI, right? Like since the start of the year, it's pretty much a given that it's going to be much faster than it was before. So I actually don't think that that's at all what you should be like emphasizing. And maybe you want to test this out and to just see, but like I would be like I would really be like, Python starter like build better faster, right? But like the emphasis on better, right? Like, vibe code, like, I mean, honestly, it sounds really bad. And it's because I've been vibe coding myself like recently. But I looked at your headline and was like, start today, launch tomorrow. Seems kind of slow, doesn't it? That's kind of the age of Claude Code these days, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I kind of wanted to say, like, sign up today, launch yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Like, in the age of Claude Code, like that's really more what people are kind of looking for, or just like the speed expectation. But to me, like from what I've heard from you, it sounds like, hey, you want to build fast, but on like a more solid foundation. That's where Python Starter can like lay like the bricks for you to build on. Right? Like to me, like that's really what you and what most of these other like tools are really offering. Right. And like the assumption is we all just move fast now. So yeah, I don't know. It's worth considering.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Have you heard of like agentic skills?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we just released a skill a few weeks ago, but I definitely see if you can kind of make this into a skill or something, right? It's like where it just kind of accesses this boilerplate and just, builds upon it, right? And so it makes the point you build fast but and securely and with everything out of the box, right? Um, I think it's definitely good to explore that.
Okay. Cool.
Cool. Anything else you want to ask, Daniel?
No, I think we covered
Cool.
Pretty much everything.
Anything else from you, Elston, Amal?
All good from my end. Hope that's helpful.
From my end, the one thing that I would just say is I think that especially if you're like in London, it's going to be very difficult to make a product or a business model like this one work, right? And to pay the bills, particularly in a city like London with such high expenses and stuff. But I think that what Elston was saying was that if you're going to kind of be like the Flask, like you're going to go like that sort of direction of being like a Python or like a Flask kind of like influencer or whatever, then I think there's a lot of different ways that you could expand this and you could continue to add more and more value to the Python like Flask kind of like ecosystem. But like I would expect that you would want to kind of move that direction if like, you were really going to be kind of like doubling down on this and trying to like make it work. I would see it as being like one early product in an ecosystem of products that you would do in the future. Whereas like, you compare that to like being Elston's like businesses, right? And it's like, those were like standalone from the get-go. This is one that, selling at what is it, 199 like one off, or it'll be 299 like in the future. But yeah, just as like, something. I mean, at the same time, though, I might be completely wrong about that. And there's probably people out there that are making 50, 100,000, $200,000 a month doing exactly this. But like, hey, prove me wrong.
Yeah, and I think like just to add on to that, like I would see like this wouldn't be the sole product. Like there's many variations of this you could do, and like as I said, like Django is quite it's
Yeah.
Flask is a little bit more niche, so like I could easily like expand into Django off this
Perfect.
off at different price points. So
Cool. That's amazing.
Cool.
Yeah, good luck.
all right.
Good
Thanks a lot,
stuff.
everyone. Let's give a round of applause to Daniel for volunteering.